Ladies and gentlemen, every dreg in America is celebrating the news. Sorry, what's that? There's no America in Destiny 2? What? Well, then where did the dregs go? The tower? So like I was saying, the reign of terror of the most dominant PvE weapon in Destiny 2 these days, at least, might be coming to an end. I'm referring to Forbearance. Now, most people probably don't even know this is happening because it was not officially announced, but we got some news about Forbearance. Well, not Forbearance itself, but rather one of its perks getting tweaked coming up in the final shape. So while this is not a direct nerf to Forbearance, it does affect it because it involves one of its main selling points, which is chain reaction. Now, Bungie was on the Firing Range podcast, shout out to Fallout, and they had a discussion about chain reaction and it becoming too problematic to put on other special weapons, so it looks like they're going to be nerfing chain reaction, which means Forbearance is included. Then they'll be able to put chain reaction on other weapons and it won't be extremely overpowered. Here's the clip for that in case you don't know what I'm talking about.
That being said, like that's the base glaive.
Yeah.
Putting perks on them like chain reaction, we actually might be able to do that in the future because I want to say it's in the final shape, we are reducing the effectiveness of chain reaction on special weapons, but we're doing that so we can put it on more special weapons. Like we haven't been able to put chain reaction on a lot of special weapons because it's super strong.
Gotcha.
So we're going to reduce the effectiveness so we can start putting it on more special weapons, which is a pretty fun thing. So yeah, something like chain reaction might totally be possible on a glaive, and then we can kind of spice glaives up a little bit with perks like that.
Now, with that said, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say Forbearance is suddenly going to become garbage or anything like that. We don't exactly know what they're going to do as a nerf to chain reaction and how that will affect Forbearance, whether it'll still be great, maybe it'll become, as the kids would say, mid and it could be replaceable, or maybe it could be terrible. We don't know yet, but we do know it's getting tweaked, and with that said, assuming that it has something to do with the range AoE explosion of chain reaction, they're going to be maybe making that a bit tinier. We can speculate that other GLs might be able to take that spot, or at least be viable now, instead of it just being a reign of terror by Forbearance by itself. So I did want to maybe speculate a little bit on if Forbearance actually got nerfed into the ground. I highly doubt it will. It'll probably still be very good. But hypothetically, if they actually really nerfed chain reaction in order to put it on other weapons so it wouldn't be busted, you think maybe it'll be a substantial nerf. And if it is, how do other GLs stack up against that currently in the game anyway? But before that, I also did want to mention that we're going to be getting a couple of GLs leading up to Final Shape in the process, which could also be very good for all we know, but we currently don't have the perk pools and all that on them. Those being the GL in Guardian games that's coming up. By the way, quick trivia, it's actually Edge Transit, reskinned Edge Transit, not the same perks. Just thought I'd point that out for fun. Then we have another GL that's going to be in Nightfalls, both for regular and Adept. That one is, I believe, a wild style GL, the double shot ones. First one since Spire of Watcher, I want to say. And then after that, we have IB in about a month after Guardian Games. That'll have a Strand Wayframe GL. I almost said Stasis. Strand Wayframe GL in IB that I'm sure everyone's just clamoring to farm IB with SBMM matchmaking, am I right? And after that, who knows? We still have Into the Light, whatever that may be, and maybe there'll be another GL introduced in that as well. Now for some speculation. First up on the list, we have everybody's favorite Stepchild. Undercurrent, the GL that was released this season with the Nightfall/Grandmaster rotation, and everybody immediately wrote it off because Forbearance is better, why would you get this, Forbearance is always going to be better, blah 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 blah. But again, for all we know, Forbearance and chain reaction specifically can take a huge nerf, and if it does, then it's possible that Volt Shot and this GL could be taking over. Now, it also roasts Ambitious, just like Forbearance, and some people will immediately say, you don't want Ambitious because it interferes with Volt Shot, and normally on regular guns, yes it does. On GLs, the Wayframe variety, no it doesn't, because the way you can do this is you take a shot, you kill something, or a group of somethings, you reload. Now you have 2 shots with Ambitious, you shoot your first shot, Volt Shot activates, everything either dies or gets really low, then you shoot your last shot, which will kill everything, then you reload again, and bam, you already have Volt Shot back again in a matter of seconds. It really is not interfering much in this specific scenario. It also rolls things like Left from Gold for ammo conservation or just replenishing, and then you can also get Demo in the third column as well if you want to mess around with like Warlock Demo builds. So is this GL going to take over? Nah, I'm not saying all that, I'm not going to go that far. But we also don't know what chain reaction is going to do in Final Shape. That being said, we have 3 months until Final Shape, so you have plenty of time to go into a Nightfall and go farm this out when it's the weekly weapon. One last thing I want to note before we move on is the origin trait perk on this weapon. Similar to Soul Drinker, not as good as Soul Drinker. Soul Drinker is still much better, but similar to Soul Drinker, you can get final blows and regenerate a small amount of health when you get these kills, and given that you clear trash mobs with Waveframe GLs, that will happen consistently. Again, not better than Soul Drinker, but it's at least some health regen. Next on the list is Harsh Language. Now, there's two reasons why I bring up this weapon particularly. Number one, it's obviously a Waveframe GL, just like every other GL we're going to be talking about in this section, and it rolls some good perks like Envious Assassin and Destabilizing Rounds. The other main reason why I bring up this GL in particular is because I believe going into Final Shape, we should be getting a episode, season, whatever the model is going to be called at that point, where it's going to be void-oriented, void artifact mods and all of that. And given what we've had with Solar in Season of the Wish, if they come anywhere close to doing the same thing for void-oriented mods, then this thing could become very powerful in Final Shape. So, it's a world drop if you run into it and you happen to get one with decent perks, like, again, Envious, Destabilizing Rounds, maybe even Unrelenting for healing purposes, then I would just hold on to one of those. Third is another sleeper pick, again, thanks to Forbearance's Reign of Terror. This one is a Solar Waveframe-based GL, Explosive Personality. This GL can still be obtained through the exotic mission Rotator, so it's not completely out of the game or as annoying to get as a world drop, at least in my opinion. And this can roll Enhanced Golden Tricorn. Now, normally, I would say this perk sucks, but on a Waveframe GL, where you're going to be clearing trash mobs in multiples, this is actually a really good perk to have, especially if you're running a ability-based build where you're spamming grenades, let's say like with Sunbracer Warlocks, or maybe a Caliban's Hand Hunters, where everything explodes from your knife, and it gives bonus damage to this GL, having you clear waves even faster. Finally, we have Deafening Whisper. Now, straight up, I don't think you can even get this in the game anymore. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're somebody who has played the game for a very long time, you might have one of these already in your vault, and if you do, then maybe you're going to end up using it. This GL can roll things like Ambitious Assassin and Wellspring in the 4th column, which could be very beneficial depending on the build that you use to generate ability energy. Grenades, you automatically think Warlocks, so maybe you can use that with a Void Warlock synergy with a Controversial build, Briarbind's build, Nezarec Sin, whatever. It could be a good GL in one of those cases. And that concludes the cope speculation portion of this video, trying to find a quote-unquote replacement for Forbearance. Overall, it remains to be seen what the Strand Waveframe GL will roll when that drops, and whether or not it'll have good/god tier perks in the 3rd and 4th column to even be meta viable. That just remains to be seen. In the meantime, let me know what you think about the potential nerf to Forbearance. What do you think the nerf exactly to Chain Reaction is going to be, if you want to speculate on that? And hypothetically, if Forbearance was badly nerfed, what do you think would be the ideal replacement for it if Chain Reaction really did get hit very hard? Anyways, that's enough cope for me today. I'm reaching Wrath of the Machine / Leviathan levels, so I'm going to stop there. Let me know what you think. If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing today and leave me a like / one of those comments to help the channel grow. It's much appreciated and helps fight that YouTube algorithm. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.